Good morning. Happy Monday, y'all. I got the earbuds in because after um the last week's storms, we were totally okay. I want to be honest. I want to be totally transparent. We're okay. In Nashville, some of the homes we had a crane out here this morning. Did not realize it was that bad for our neighbor who's all the way down at the end here. There was a tree in her house. Oh my gosh! And when we went to breakfast on Sunday, there were people in the restaurant who still had no power. But we are blessed, and we had our power go out for I don't know, about 4 or 5 hours the day of, which I think was Friday, which was kind of weird because like the phone lines went down, the power was out, you could barely text. I was trying to text with Darren and some friends, and that was like iffy. But everybody's cool now. It's 70 some odd degrees here in Nashville and not humid, which is the bomb. Um, and happy to be with you and be able to get online and say hello, good morning. So, good morning and welcome to the weekly energy report. I'm Soul Coach Michelle here, and welcome to my channel, Soul Coach Studio. You may notice there are some new playlists that I'm adding um, to kind of expand on the different things that I do, which I'm excited about. So there should now be, and I don't know if you can see it or not. I'm still, still technologically trying to figure stuff out. So tomorrow at 11 on right here on this channel, I will be doing my very first full moon sound bath and meditation for you guys. So excited to share that with you. And that'll be tomorrow at 11 a.m. Central right here. And of course, it'll be a live stream. So afterwards, if you can't make it, it's totally cool. I'm just going to look up really quick. Where is my calendar for the Googles or because I know our full moon is tomorrow at like 6:45 in the morning. It's in Virgo. So, and I'll talk a little bit more about all that. But the energy of it, you can probably start feeling it like yesterday. The biggie. There's a lot of stuff going on. I'll kind of dive into that in a minute. But I just want to give you kind of a time frame. So tomorrow I'm going to do a full moon in Virgo, meditation and sound bath. So I got my sound bowls. This room is painted. See my little chime back here. I'm so excited I got that. I need to get more chimes. Because I really, really love that. So instead of tuning forks, this is kind of my calling is the chime for the sound healing. But anyways, I got my sound bowls. I'm gonna do a little meditation. We'll see how this works tomorrow. That's why it's free. So just come on. I'll be doing the sound bath on YouTube, 11 a.m. Central. And you can join me live or you'll be able to watch the replay because the energy for the full moon is from tomorrow at 6:40 in the morning Central. Adjust for your own time zone to 4:30 in the morning on Saturday. I will not be awake when that transition happens, but just so you know, you have basically all week to kind of like if you can't get to your ritual at 6:40 in the morning tomorrow, which I'm going to probably be sleeping, know that you have that time. Now, granted, the further away you get from the energy, the less powerful the energy because it's waning, but you do have that time frame to do any kind of ritual that you like. And we'll talk really quickly in a minute about what that energy is going to feel like. So, just so you're aware, that's kind of what's going on. We also have, I think on what's today, the 6th. So the 7th is tomorrow. We have Saturn transitioning from Aquarius into Pisces. Sarah doesn't like Pisces. Saturn likes Aquarius because there's a lot of bum, 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 very like structure and thought and let's plan and do all the things. And then it moves into Pisces and like, I'm a Pisces moon. And so I'm like, when I'm in the flow and feeling, that's why I was like, it's, as we kind of get the house ready to kind of move forward, um there's like my Virgo sun is like because we like structure and scheduling and that doesn't happen when you're in transition. So I'm leaning into the Pisces moon and the flow of intuition and empathy and all that kind of stuff so that I can feel better about everything. And that's kind of what I'm going to encourage everybody to do as we kind of take Saturn out of its comfy place and putting it into this, like putting this very like, think of Mr. Spock when he like gets a little bit more emotional than normal. That's kind of the feeling that's going to happen. So how do we navigate that? Um, And we'll talk about that in a minute. So let's get started because I also have, instead of cards today, I have a channeled message from a source that I jotted down this morning. And I wanted to read that to you verbatim because I do channeled writing and I do channeled stuff like conscious channeling as I'm doing this. But that was more of like, hey, boop, boop, you need to write this down and share it with the folks. So let's see. Good morning, Sharon. How are you? Glad you could join me. Um, let's see. So happy new moon in Virgo. So first off, I don't know if y'all felt like this past week felt very crazy and a little bit off balance, at least for me, because again, I like the schedule. I like um, knowing I have three planners. That's my jam. That's where I feel my sweet spot is knowing what's going on, my house being tidy, all that kind of stuff, and knowing where we're going. So here's something interesting that I read, and I know a lot of us kind of understand the concept of worry and anxiety usually comes from focusing on the future stuff, like putting yourself in the future. And we don't have any power in the future. We only have power in the present moment. Regret is when we kind of live in the past, but again, we don't have power there. We have only power in the present moment. What was even more clarity came on that was I was reading something, and I'm so sorry, I forget what it was, but I read something that kind of even fine tuned that idea. And it made me go, oh my God, okay, I got to get back into like my center. But the fact is that this Virgo full moon, the energy's been building. Last week was like a precursor to all of this. And so what I was reading was this wonderful thing that basically said anxiety comes from trying to control the future. And regret comes from trying to control the past. Now we have I think we all know up here, maybe not in here, which is why you get anxiety. Um, but trying to control the future and controlling the past. So I'm going to speak to controlling the future because that's where like what was going on with me was like trying to plan all the stuff, trying to make sure are the numbers right on what we're going to want to do. Are are we going to be able to find all the things we need? Are we going to be able to find, and like that's so Virgo and so Saturn, and as we're closing down, it's almost like since the Saturn the Virgo full moon that's coming up is going to be all about letting go of that perfectionism, letting go of like all the shit that's getting in the way. Because like when you think about trying to control all the stuff, that's self-sabotaging because you're almost resisting the allowing, because control is the opposite of allowing. So we're resisting the allowing. And the whole point of creating abundance is allowing it to flow in. So this full moon is kind of that releasing of that resistance if you choose to allow it. And this last week, because the last 3 years has been Saturn kind of being like, hey, where are you trying to control shit when you're supposed to be allowing stuff? So the fact is that last week you might have been presented with a lot of stuff, like witnessed it and poked in your Chiron and Aries. Hello, Gen Xer brethren and sistren. Everybody's got Chiron and Aries right now because that's where it's hanging out, but we were all born with it. So that's why it's a little bit. So understanding that we can feel it really hard, and especially since Saturn is the great teacher and it's working along with Chiron teaching to heal our wounds, and you might have been like, um, I'm witnessing all this stuff. But if you step back, like, because now it's over, so you can step back. Monday's a little bit like, okay, what did I just, like Mel B, what just happened? So look at what just happened from an observer point of view and say, oh, that was to remind me, oh, that's for my healing. This was like my pop quiz at the end of my, 15 years of Saturn. I think it's in like, or somebody was hanging out in Capricorn. I can't remember who, but anyways, but the last bit of Saturn teaching you stuff. What was going on there? That was around the idea of letting go of control and just allowing. And like maybe think about, and here's something it's not in the newsletter, but an idea. Over the last couple of years, maybe sit down with your journal and make a list, especially during the full moon, because it's a gratitude thing. And write down what am I grateful for that happened because I allowed it to happen, because I surrendered to the universe and said, you know what, I could try to control this and it's making me feel like shit. So I'm going to stop and like, universe, take the wheel, and write down maybe what were the things that you're looking back at and being like, holy crap, that happened. And when I just let go, that might be a gratitude practice for your full moon, especially under the Virgo full moon. So thinking about in this thing of the Virgo full moon is all about letting go of the stuff that we're not in perfection ever. There's no such thing as perfection in this particular lifetime 3D world. There just isn't. No matter what people or your job or whatever may tell you, that's bullshit. We are in evolution in a constant, not perfection. And striving for perfection creates stress because it's never achievable. So understanding your perfection comes from your imperfection and maybe your ability. And I'm not going to say perfection and surrendering because we're human beings and the contrast is always there, or we get to choose in every moment. Do we love, surrender, or fear, control? Okay. And that's what I'm talking about for this energy. As it's full moon, it comes up, it brings all the crap of that up for you to say, you know what? At one time in my life, this may have helped me, this behavior, this belief, this thought process, but it doesn't help me anymore. And I'm going to say, I bless you with love and I release you with love out to this full moon energy to have it transmuted so that I can bring in new beliefs, new thoughts, new energy that is nurturing. Because Virgo, the good side of Virgo is super nurturers, for everybody else. Like I'm trying to work on being a super nurturer for me because that's like one of our detriments. But the thing is that Virgos are super nurturers of the earth, of other people. They're like the mothers of like the healthy goddess mothers that are like, hey, come here, let me hug on you. Let me feed you some lasagna. You're dairy free? No problem. We can figure that out. I got gluten free, grain free, cheese free lasagna that tastes like heaven. You just come on. Do you see what I mean? So if we can let go and be grateful for those lessons, because we're not letting go, because people always are very like, oh, if I'm letting go of something, it must suck. Right. But the fact is that in some instances, the stuff served you, maybe in your childhood, but now it doesn't because you're grown. And I'm going to thank it and be grateful. Full moon is releasing in gratitude for the harvest, right? It helped me. So I'm going to be grateful for it. And I'm going to bless it with love and release it with love. Thank it for its service and send it on its way. That's the full moon. Now, with the Saturn transitioning on the same day into this kind of, it might be a little bumpy because Virgo also is like, no, I don't play a game unless I know I'm right. Like, we're not like other signs that might make a bet where there's an iffy. We only make bets we know we can win, which is why Saturn and Virgo is very like, okay, structure, sweet, bring it. But then it's kind of like right now the structure is in a space of like flowiness and empathy. So it's like you got to kind of find the hygge spot in the structure or the hygge in the lack of structure, and that duality of structure and flow. And sometimes playing the polarity game of normally what pops up is what you don't like. So sit down with your journal and write down, okay, well, what are the blessings? I don't like this. And you can write all day and then go back through and what would be the opposite of those things? What would make you feel better in those moments? That's within your control. Like not saying somebody else needs to change or I need to win the lotto or whatever. Like what can you, putting your hand on your heart, what can I do? Because Pisces is here, Saturn is here, Virgo is here, Pisces is here. That kind of thing. So having that duality, witnessing the duality, let's use that word, witnessing and observing the duality. And then if you feel the feels of it, play that polarity game of writing all down the stuff that I don't like this, but then coming back and saying, within my control, what would I prefer to see? Be the change, because that's the other thing is being the change. You are the thing. You are not striving to be it. You are not intending for it. That's the whole thing. Structure, the learning here is not about how am I going to do something. It's I'm already that something. How do I allow it? Because the human experience is all about being programmed that you got to do something. You have to be good enough. That's bullshit. It's already for you, which leads me kind of into, I just want to read verbatim what I wrote, which is why I'm going to be looking off to the side here. I'm just going to read it to you. This is what Source told me to share with you. So this is a channeled writing I wanted to share with you. You are not, and this is all in caps. If you get the newsletter, again, If you go to soulcostudio.com, scroll all the way to the bottom, there's a newsletter sign up. So if you have not signed up for my newsletter, this will be in there. It's part of the newsletter, but I did want to share it here because I think it's really important since I'm not going to, I still might pull a card. I don't know. Anyway, but from source, it says in all caps, you are not just loved, you are love. You are healing. So notice the difference. You are not just love. Like you are not loved, you are love. You are healing. You are joy. You are abundance. You are not embodying or stepping into. You are already all of these things, not because you are a child of the universe or God or source, but because you are source. You are God. You are the universe. As an extension of such, you are such. You are love. This full moon is about reminding yourself of where perfection and worry over quote unquote what the outside will think, do, be, have, or behave is to be let go. All of those thought processes are to be let go. Maybe this thought or belief or behavior pattern supported you in a moment you needed it to. Maybe as a child in a home where your family of origin was trying to heal their wounds through you, and it was not a pleasant experience. In these moments, we had to lean into fear, worry, maybe of what reaction our actions or word might have on those in power over us. However, you are now grown. It's time to stop trauma bonding or saying to yourself, the reason, quote unquote, I am the way I am is because my family of origin was not healthy and it was abusive. I do not say I do not say that this did not happen to you. I do not try to belittle this of going on, nor am I invalidating your emotions or your experiences. Again, all your emotions are totally valid. What I am explaining is what you're being invited to do right now in this moment of time, is to bless whatever coping behavior got you through that abusive time frame, and you had to keep it in place to keep yourself safe in those moments. But now you are safe, you are grown, you are safe, and in these moments, and it's time to release those thoughts, behaviors, and beliefs about the world in a loving way. So, meaning, you know, we can all harken back, and some people more so than others, their childhood, or even current relationship with, others might be an abusive spot, and that sucks. And this is me talking. That sucks. Um, but what Source is saying is it's not belittling of your human experience by any means to say it's time to stop trauma bonding and to stop sitting in and on, sitting in the story of the reason I am the way I am is because of this. Yeah, that's part of who you are. That's part of what made you. And yeah, the in the moment that sucked, but it's still kind of sucking because you're grown and can say to yourself, it's time for me to release all of this um, behavior, this energy that I am holding on to, that I navigate the world from the space of the age of the person I was in that moment. And that is holding me back because the way that I'm feeling safe is not healthy for me. And as a grown person, whatever I got to do to release it might be therapy, might be a meditation, it might be making the choice. It might be as simple as making the choice. And there's no room for blame, shame, or guilt here. I'm not saying this for people to sit around and go, I can't believe I've been sitting in shame all this time or in fear all this. No, 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 no. You don't know what you don't know. And up until this time, that's where you were supposed to be. But now, if you're watching this, it's time to let it all go with love, loving of yourself, knowing your worthiness. So let me get back to what was shared here. What you are being invited to do is bless whatever coping behavior you had in place to keep you safe in these moments and release those thoughts, behaviors, and beliefs about the world in love. You are grown, and it is time to parent yourself the way you wanted to be parented. Or if you're escaping a relationship, to love yourself the way that you wanted to be loved. It's also time to realize how any of these behaviors, beliefs, thought patterns have kept you stuck in guilt, shame, blame, and judgment over whether or not you are deserving enough, worthy enough, loved enough, capable enough, or etc. to do or be whatever and whoever you are called to be. That calling is your alignment inviting you in. That's the message. And in doing this, you'll get more into alignment. We'll be releasing that. We're trying to control all the stuff and we're just going to let it flow. Like, what if our what if statement, like to open up our possibilities, is what if I could just let go of control and allow myself to receive whatever the highest good the universe wants to give me? And we don't have to answer that question. You don't have to sit here and go, I wonder what that would be like. No, what you're going to do is you're asking your body and your, because you have your mind, mind body, energy body, physical body, heart body, right? So what you're doing is you're giving that question over to all those bodies so that you can unfold any blockages there, because we don't want to answer the question consciously. We want to open up a space for the answer to flow in. That's an allowing practice in itself. What if I could just release control and allow my highest good to flow in? That's what this full moon is. That's what the reflowing structure of Saturn coming in could look like for you. That's it. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about the Saturn thing because that's interesting to me because it brought up a memory for me. And I wrote this down too. So, Saturn's transitioning from Aquarius, which it kind of like likes hanging out in because there's thought and it's very, Vulcan, Spockian. But Aquarius and Pisces is really Mr. Spock, which is like I'm trying to be logical, but my human half kind of lets me wander off a little bit emotionally. Um, but Saturn is not just a great teacher and structure, but um, it's structure, and Pisces is about flow and empathy. So Saturn's about structure and teaching, and Pisces is about empathy and flow. And the what popped back, and I turned 50 in September, so it's been a while since I was in third grade. But I think there are teachers that stick out in our minds a lot of times, whether it be a great like a formal schooling kind of teacher or a teacher that you kind of learn from in life. But this was my third grade teacher, and I have to say, her name was Mrs. Landers. God bless her. She's probably deceased now because unless, like, remember, like, I think as a 50-year-old now, looking at people who were like in their 20s and 30s back in the day, they all look like they were 40 and 50. So I don't honestly, as a like my third grade child mind doesn't really know how old she was. But at the time, I would look at her and kind of think, "Oh my goodness, this woman is like she's like played in the sandbox with God old, kind of old." And she did have an old school way of teaching, which was kind of interesting. And she was people would say when I remember when I got her as my teacher, you get the little card at the end of the year, you're promoted, and then who your new teacher is going to be. And you get the card, and everybody was like, "Oh shit, she's hard. She's really hard." And you're in third grade. You're like, "Hard? Was she grade coloring on a curve?" I mean, I don't know. So, but anyways, what it ended up being, and it was interesting, and this is kind of where the duality comes in, because I went in there with these preconceived notions of she's going to be really hard and mean. And I remember her; she was very short and squatty, and everything was round. Like her hair was round, and her body was round, and she had these round red glasses on, kind of like Annie Sullivan from the Miracle Worker, the Helen Keller story. Anyway, so she comes in, and I remember two very interesting things about that class, or actually three. Two were kind of like that Saturn strict structure, and one was this like Pisces, like empathy, fun, flowy energy that was kind of had structure, but in a way that felt really good. So the structury part that was really rigid was I remembered um, when you had to go to the bathroom as a little child, you would say, "May I go to the bathroom?" Or "Can I go to the bathroom?" And she was very strict. She was like one of these, I'm impeccable with my word. Like the first agreement was strong with this one. And so you had to say what you meant, or you like, so she wasn't, as long as you were clear in your wording, you got to do pretty much anything. But if you weren't, it would be upsetting because you were like, wait a minute, because, most kids in that time, the vernacular was very rampant. There was like, "Can I go to the bathroom?" And it didn't matter if it was a half bath or a bath with a shower or whatever. So her whole thing was if you had to go to the bathroom, you had to ask, "May I go to the lavatory?" No, "May I," not "can I," and go to the lavatory, not the bathroom. Because if you said, "Can I go to the bathroom?" She'd say, "I don't know, can you?" And you'd have to answer her like, "Yeah, oh, may I go to the bathroom?" And then she'd say, "Are you sure you want to go to the bathroom? We don't have those here in school." Because every classroom had like a little half bath, and that might be where my bouginess about bathrooms came from because we all had our own potties, back then. And now, like, I won't go to a event unless I get to go sit in the box. So, because you get your own potty in the box of calcium. But anyways, I digress. So the thing was, so you had to say, "May I go to the lavatory?" And she'd be like, "Yeah, sure." And so then you go, and if and she had a rule that said if you chewed gum in, you're not allowed to chew gum in class because it masticating like a cow. I remember her saying is not how people should be. You should respect yourself and others and not be chewing gum because that's just gross. That was like one of her things. And I remember if you chewed gum in class and she saw you, you had to put the gum on your nose for an hour, which I thought was funny. So that to me is Saturn, very Saturn, right? And then the other side of her was so interesting because we would do these instead of taking pop quizzes where everyone's quiet and you're writing stuff. What she would do is she would do this thing, and everybody would have to stand up, and what would happen is she would ask a question from something we were supposed to look at for homework, and if you knew the answer, you stood up and you raised your hand, and one at a time, she would call you and point to you, and you'd have to run up to her and whisper in her ear what the answer was, and then you got to stand in front of the class. So it was like this run around with your expelling energy, and you got to stand in front of the class. And if you got the answer right, if you didn't, you had to go back to your turn. You could look, you had your books and stuff, so you could look it up, and you could try again. But it was this very different way of being playful about learning and making sure you learned what you were told to learn. So that was kind of like more Pisces stuff. She was empathetic to the fact we were little children sitting in there and doing a handwritten test with bubbles was not like didn't feel good. And so she had this really structured Saturn way of doing things most of the time. But then she would do this other game of what did you learn in a very Piscean, fun and flowy way. So understand that this next couple of, years is going to be an interesting take on what structure should or shouldn't or is or isn't looking like. And this moon is going to help us unlock and let go of all this old shit. What's holding us back to allow us to let in this nurturing kind of like free form new way of looking at structure. Now, this is going to be on a collective and an individual level. So it's not just you. You're going to have it happen to you and then witness it out in the world. So, how are we going to navigate this stuff? How are we going to navigate it? So, what I would encourage you to do is play what I call the polarity game, which is included, and I'm putting this together because I got a new platform again, psych, yay! But it's coming, the universal law class. And it's going to have lots and lots of videos so you can learn it on your own. But one of the universal laws is the law of polarity or duality. People call it different things. Where this time frame is going to be very like, I like structure, but here's some flow, and it's kind of structure-y, but there's flow to it. Like there's this weird kind of two different things going on at the same time. And a lot of times what happens is we focus in on what we don't like about that duality. So the polarity game is where you sit down and you write out all the things, and you can do this every day whenever it feels like you need to over the next 2 years. Yeah, it's going to be that long, 2 years. And write down stuff that's bugging you, that you're witnessing, and then write down within your control again, what can I control? Write down the things that would make you feel better, that you would see. Like I hold a vision, like, there's like all kinds of crap going on where, these train wrecks or other pollutions happening that, Mother Earth is getting like beat up. But I want to sit in a space where we co-nurture back and forth, Earth and us. So I'm going to act in a way that is co-nurturing with the Mother Earth at the same time as I'm witnessing the opposite going on. But this makes me feel better, so I'm going to do this. So do you see what I mean? Make a list of stuff because it's real easy to sit down and write all this shit that I don't like. But what the work is to figure out what within my control can I do to feel better about this thing. And it's okay that they're both still going on at the same time. I can't change this because if I continue to focus on it, if I am the creator and I continue to focus on the shit going on, instead of focusing on what I want and then doing the actions of what I want, I'm contributing to the stuff I don't want. So if I do the stuff that I do want, at least I feel better. And my energy is starting to help others, is to work in connection with others and leverage that energy towards maybe tilting the scales into a way that makes us all feel better. That's the polarity game. So that's what I would encourage you to do. That's kind of journal prompt for the next 2 years. I'll give you, don't worry, there'll be more journal prompts next year, but that's like an overarching one for 2 years. Okay. Um, and it also will help you as this kind of strange, flowy structure stuff happens to make you feel a little more grounded because you're going to sit down and ground into what do I want? What do I want to see? What do I want? And what do I want to do about that? Because that grounds you into your values, it grounds you into who you are, it grounds you into that still small voice of you. So that's where you're going to feel more grounded during this kind of wonky time, okay? That's kind of coming in as of tomorrow. So, and by tomorrow, I mean Tuesday, the 7th of March, if you're watching the replay later. So, anyways, um, that's kind of the jam. I'm not going to pull a card today because I feel the channeled message was pretty much here's how we're going to do this and why we're doing this. And that you are not loved, you are love. Like the love that we talk about when we say, oh, you're loved by source, you're loved. It's really because you are source energy. You are love. You are healing. I'm not trying to heal. I am healing. I am the act of healing. I am the energy of healing. I am the act of love and I am the energy of love. Yes, see? So when we do this, when we step into that, or rather, not step into, allow ourselves to be that which we are instead of saying, well, I'm going to step into that because that infers that you were out of it. No, honey, you're just resisting. We put down the gate, not resist anymore. And you know you are love, you are abundance, you are well being and healing and all the business. That's where this week is kind of going to allow us to be in that flow. If you choose not to stand in there and you choose to get caught up in the duality and oh my God, all the shit I don't like, or I really like structure because all of us analytical types, we love our planners, we love our calendars, we love our lists, we love our this is the checklist, this is how you do it. I'm one of you. Feel it. It's time we gotta let it go. And do it in a way like maybe we make our checklist so that we don't forget stuff. Like, we don't wander into the grocery store with no list whatsoever and buy a bunch of shit that we don't need, but we thought was a good idea at the time. When we get home, we're like, oh, I'm out of milk. That happened yesterday. I was at the Sprouts and I was like, oh, I need this. I need some lettuce. And I bought like $40 worth of stuff. I got home, no milk. So I need to write it down. So yes, maybe keep your acts of structure, but give yourself permission to not be rigid in the structure and give yourself some empathy about all that kind of stuff. Okay. That's the message for this week. I love you so much. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was helpful. Remember, if you're watching this in March, on Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. Central, I will be doing a sound bath and meditation right here. Hopefully, it'll work technology wise. I'm thinking so. I hope so. Um, and other than that, I will see you next week. I look forward to really quick announcements. Channel readings this week, March 6th. I don't have opening spots, but I do have spots on March 14th and the 16th. Look at the newsletter if that's something you want to do, and just like message me. Also, let's see, the full moon meditation is tomorrow at 11. And then those of you in the Akashic Records group, we have our meeting at 6 p.m. Central on Wednesday. And I will see you guys there. Other than that, that's all the announcements for this week. I love you guys so much. I will see you soon. Have a great week. Love you guys. Bye-bye.